Hi, my name is Eve, and I'm going to share a tip that might be helpful for those of you who have lower back pain, sensitive lower backs, and find that practicing poses like lunges or planks seems to aggravate a feeling of compression or pain in the lower back. So let's just look at the tilt of the pelvis to begin with. Our pelvis can tilt in different directions, and that is sometimes helpful to enhance what we're doing in a particular pose. So when my front hip bones, I'm touching my ASISs, my front hip bone points, and I am tilting them forward. And you'll notice when I do that, the curve of my lower back becomes more exaggerated. My hip flexors are working to make this movement happen. Then I'm coming back to my neutral position. I've still got a curve in my back, but it's less. Then I can go the other way, so I can tilt my pelvis backwards, posterior pelvic tilt. My front hip bones will go back, my pubic bone will go forward, and my glutes will switch on. That will create a little bit of a stretch in the front of the hip, in the hip flexors. So for some of these poses, if we're going into them with an anterior pelvic tilt, and some of us have naturally more tilt than others, but I've also noticed that some students have a pattern of tilting. I don't know if that's your natural posture, our natural posture, because I'm also one of those people, but within yoga poses, we often tend to slip into this when we could rather be engaging the glutes more and finding that allows us to switch on our abdominal muscles more easily. So let's look at an example with a lunge. I'm stepping forward with a small lunge, and if I was going into anterior tilt, I'd be letting my back arch quite a lot in the lunge, and already then it doesn't feel great if your lower back is sensitive, because it tends to compress the lower back area. So here I can think about, and also you'll notice my pelvic, the front of my pelvis, those front hip bones, they're actually slightly pointing down. So now I'll point them forward, and I'll engage my buttock muscles to create a little bit more of a tilt. It doesn't have to be a big tucking of the tailbone, and I don't really like the cue to tuck the tailbone because it can create tension in the other extreme. So rather just think of a little bit of engagement of the glutes to feel comfortable in your back, and now the lunge feels different. When I'm tilted forward and slipping into the back arch, if I wanted to come up from the lunge, for example, just lift my back knee, it would feel, again, challenging for the lower back if I start doing that with my pelvis tilted forward. So when I switch on my glutes and I then try come up, it's a very different feeling. It feels much easier to come up. Of course, I'm generalizing, and for some people, this might not work. It might not be your issue. But if you know that it's your issue, your back's quite arched, you tend to get lower back pain, and you find these poses difficult, it might work for you. I'm just going to show you now how we can put this into practice, very importantly in a plank. Because really, if the pelvic tilt is not correct in a plank, you're not going to be able to really feel your abdominal muscles working at all. And we really need them in a plank. We need that support throughout the body to feel good in the spine, to keep that sense of elongation, to not get compressed, and to really make it a whole body pose. So we'll start in a kneeling plank, and we're taking the hands slightly forward of the shoulders, sinking the feet into the ground. At this stage, I'm just in my natural pelvic tilt, and I'm then going to move the pelvis forward. Now move it about halfway, because we're going to do what we don't want to do on purpose, just to feel what it's like to do that. So lift your tailbone. Notice the arch of your back. Can you engage your abdominal muscles here at all? Please try. You'll probably notice it's just not possible. So then let's try the opposite. So go back to your neutral position. Now we're going to already start to engage our glutes as we take the pelvis forward. So my front hip bone points again. They're not pointing down. They're starting to move towards pointing straight ahead. And I'm sinking into my knees. I can now feel like I can engage my abdominal muscles. Pausing and breathing here. Hold it for a few breaths. And then take it back. And maybe you'll rest in child's pose. We're going to do that again and see if we can take it into plank with the knees off the ground. But if you find plank is really hard, and that was hard to do plank on your knees, then stick with that. Practice it on your knees a few times with a real awareness of the exact pelvic tilt, exactly how much or how little you need to tilt to feel strong in the pose. And once you're feeling strong, you can then explore lifting the knees. So we'll do that now, but feel free to stay on your knees if you want to. We're taking the weight back. Hands are in front of the shoulders. Now I'm coming forward and I'm already sinking my feet into the ground and being aware that I'm not doing that. So I'm engaging my glutes. I'm feeling my pubic bone move forward. And then dropping the pelvis slowly, not too much because then I end up in a cobra. So I've got to be at a point where my abdominals are actually stopping me going into cobra. Hold there, engaging your abdomen. Another thing you can visualize or feel is bringing your lower ribs to streamline down into the belly. So there's a connection between lower ribs and the angle of the pelvis. And maybe that's another video. I haven't even spoken about ribs in this one. Let's lift one knee. If you feel your abdominals are engaged, you can then lift the other knee. And you're really noticing that you've got that right amount of pelvic tilt that feels good for your body, that you're not feeling any compression in your lower back. You're feeling a nice sense of power, containment, and support. Let's take one more breath here, and then we'll put the knees down, and you can rest in child's pose. So I've talked through this very quickly. You can come up from child's pose. Yeah, I've talked through this very quickly. I've done a full 30-minute class about this subject where we put it into practice in different poses. So if you're interested in delving deeper into the subject, have a look at my membership website and I'll put the link below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.